Hey guys, happy Monday. Today is Monday, September 30th, very last day of September, last day of the third quarter, if you're keeping track, if that's important to you. Very last day. It's Ted-tober Eve, and those of you who know me know that that is just tongue-in-cheek. October's my month. Super excited to have my friend Richter on the show today. So let us know you can hear us and see us. Had a problem last week, believe it or not. Hey, Susie Parker, give us a thumbs up or a heart. We'd like to hear Ricky's story because I think it's a great one. And of course, we want to talk about the Wounded Warrior Project, near and dear to my heart. Anything veterans and heroes is good for me. Tyler, what's up? Give us a heart or a thumbs up. I don't like to do the show, I told you earlier, because I don't want Ricky to speak the whole time and then nobody can hear him. Hey, Denise. So people are parked, so we're good. Tyler gave us a thumbs up. All right, so you and I met through a mutual friend. We were talking about him earlier, Brent Morse. Yeah. Super excited for Brent, whatever he's got going on. And we had a connection, so it's really cool. The stuff that Ricky does is really cool. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay, super excited. Tell us your background. Give us a little origin story on Ricky Richter.
Okay, so I have a Marine Corps background. My father was a Marine, so I bounced all over the country. Mainly grew up in San Diego, California. And then I joined the Marines because it just seemed fitting for a little troublesome youth like myself. So I joined the Marine Corps, and then I went through and I was attached to 1st Marine Special Operations Battalion. I was an operator. And I got combat wounded in Afghanistan in 2010. I was medevac to Landstuhl, Germany, came back to the States, did my rehabilitation, and from there I had to figure out what I was going to do with my adult life. So I started going to school, and then I transferred down here to USF. Did my bachelor's in marketing, and then I got an MBA, Master's of Science in Sport and Entertainment Management. Started working with the Buccaneers in the NFL. Traversed over to the NHL after some things happened with the flag and kneeling and all sorts of crazy stuff, and figured out I just wasn't into the whole sport and entertainment management corporate life. It just didn't fit my background and the culture that I came from. So I started looking elsewhere, and that's where I found Wounded Warrior Project. In between there were some personal things that had gone on that I was in a very low point in my life, and Wounded Warrior Project came up, and I started working with, basically I call them my own people, my warriors. Sure. And that's what really dug me out of that hole, and now every day is a blessing. Every time I get to open my eyes, I see my phone and I have some warriors. Yesterday we just went on a deep sea fishing cruise. We did some paintball, and I
saw the pictures. It looked really cool.
Yeah, it's a blessing, you know. I mean, this is our nation's heroes. These are the people that most times feel forgotten. They're in a deep hole. PTSD is a very, very real thing. I struggled with it for a long time myself and had to dig myself out of the hole. I didn't really understand what Wounded Warrior Project was at the time. So now, being in the role I'm in, I try to reach out to everybody I used to know, as well as veterans. If they say, they're dealing with some things, I'm like, look, let me hook you up.
Right.
So.
What was it like? So I want to go back a little bit because I want to progress, because I've had a lot of veterans on. I'm a super big advocate of treating our veterans better, getting them the services they need, paying attention to the statistic of 22 suicides a day on average of vets. There's just so much that goes on. One of the biggest issues that always comes up is how you get out of service and then you transition to civilian life. So what was that like for you? Is that sort of where it became apparent to you that there was a need for you to figure out what's going on?
Yeah, so the transition for myself was really rough, just because at that time I was young. Like most individuals that get out of the military, especially from my generation, if they're combat wounded, you got to realize we were usually, when we get out, are usually about 20, 21 years old. Right. Go in when you're 18, you're seeing combat at 19 and 20, and now I'm 29. I look back, I'm like, I was a baby. Right. we were babies out there running around with a gun, killing people in their hometown. So when you get out, your brain's still developing. You don't know what's going on, and the human brain, especially being westernized, is not used to that. So when you get out, everything is very strange. You're bred to fight, you're bred to kill, you're bred to not have fear, you're bred to not. You can't ever show weakness. So when you get out and people are like, hey, we can help you, you're like, no, I'm good.
Right.
You bury it down, you
Right.
finish a bottle of Jack, and you lose your marriage, you lose your kid. I mean, it's very, very hard.
Because also you've left, even though that is a painful, eye-opening, life-changing experience, then you come back and you don't have that brotherhood, sisterhood, that group around you who you knew when they said they had your back, they actually really had your back because it was life or death. That's what I hear a lot from the vets who transition out, that they come in and then they're dealing with quote unquote corporate America, who has absolutely no clue most of the time. They don't know even what to do with your talents.
Right.
So what was that like for you? So you come back, you said you came back and then went to school.
Yep.
And so you're in school. Was school even a transition for you? Like, how did that work? You think differently because you're trained to think differently.
Right. Well, luckily, so I started going to school in San Diego, where there's a major Marine Corps base, Camp Pendleton. There's a major Navy base, a bunch of Army bases. They're used to it. So we had a green program in my school where they understood if you have PTSD, you had certain accommodations that you could have. You could have your service dog, etc. So I had a service dog for the longest time. And when I went to school, it was a different mindset. If I would have gone straight to college out of high school, it would have never worked out.
Right.
But when I got there, the discipline was there, and it was kind of like I was going to prove to myself I could do this. You know, so with the help of mentors and different individuals in my life, mainly my professors, they were about it. They helped me out completely, and I fell in love with going to school. That's why I kept progressing. But you know, a lot of guys. So I'll go back. We set up a little veterans program at that school to guys that were transitioning out, that if they were having an issue in a classroom, they could come to the veterans room and we would sit down as vets and we would talk about it.
That's so cool.
You know, so it's not
because
easy.
there's a trust level. So I have volunteered. I have some friends that work. They do either monthly or weekly vets group at the VA, and they always say to me, "Well, you haven't experienced it, Ted. So of course, they're not going to trust you because I can't speak. I didn't experience what you experienced. And so I would imagine that's difficult trying to translate that to school or to an employer is what I hear a lot of. Yeah. You've got all these really amazing skills you come out of the armed services with, and how corporate America takes those, they don't know what to do with them. They have no earthly idea what to do with them. And so that just adds to the frustration. I think that's what I hear is, I was this, and this in the Army or the Marines or whatever branch you served in, and then corporate America has zero idea. So you're out there and you're not able to find a job.
Yeah.
You're not able to find your way. And how did you feel when you came out? Did you feel like you were treated with respect? What was your homecoming like? Because I have a lot of vets on, it's half and half. They say, yes, my hometown was great. My family understood, and then some of them say nobody had a clue because they were dealing with PTSD.
Right. No, mine was a little bit different just because when I came back, I was medevac directly to a hospital, and then from there I went to Wounded Warrior Battalion on Camp Pendleton. So for the first probably 8 months that I was back, I was just surrounded by doctors, and when I finally got out into the natural public, it was just kind of cool. You were a Marine, that's awesome. But there was no disrespect. There was usually a high level of respect just being in the Marine Corps, but being a combat veteran, it's a lot different in school. I thought because the West Coast schools, especially in California, are a little bit more on the left-hand side, I thought that maybe they wouldn't be as receptive to military, and that was not the case.
That's good. So I think people they also don't know how to, Joanna, yes, thank you for your service, 1,000%. I think people who have not been in the military like me, the only knowledge I have is from having a lot of people who are veterans as friends, having listened to their stories. There's this, we don't know how to interact in the right way. And it's not that you're not trying to be human, it's that you don't know the things that you come with.
Right.
And so we might have an expectation. We might have had a super hard day at work, which could have involved somebody screaming at you on the other end of the phone. But in reality, none of that was life and death on a daily basis.
Right.
So when you're out, what did Wounded Warriors do for you?
So it was a little bit different because for me, I wasn't receptive to it. They came
Why?
in. Because so the origin of Wounded Warrior Project was they started with backpacks, right? So I got my backpack. So we'll digress back to the origination. So 4 guys, I said, hey, let's put some backpacks together. Go give them to the guys that have gotten wounded, just with stuff they might need. That's how Wounded Warrior Project started, and that's kind of their staple now. So when you get medevaced, you get a backpack. So I got my backpack. They signed me into the program. I was like, great, thanks. And then they would always hit me up all the time. The guys doing the same thing that I'm doing now. They would hit me up, hey, let's go, let's do this, do that. And I was like, I don't want any part of you guys. Just leave me alone. I buried myself down.
Why was that? You just weren't, because you weren't, hey, Brandon, you weren't ready to accept it. You just weren't trained to accept any of that. You had to do it on your own.
I felt weak. I was like, if I go out here and do, I'm weak, and I'm not, I'm trained to not be weak. The other thing is that for me, I was dealing with a lot of survivor's guilt, and I just didn't want to go outside of my room, and the only thing that comforted me was a bottle of Jack Daniels. So, now it's a little different to where the individual that was in my role, which is an outreach specialist, they weren't military. So they're hitting me up and they're a civilian, and then when you're first getting back, you don't want to talk to civilians.
Interesting. They were a civilian, never been in the military, but in that role.
Right.
That's interesting. So how do they relate? Or maybe they don't.
And that's why it was, so now, like, when I reach out, I understand it. And I'm like, look, I get it. This is who I am. You can trust me.
Right.
And it's okay. They come out of their shells. I had 2 warriors out yesterday that they haven't left their house in 4 months. But I explained to them who I am and what we're about, and how I just want to take them out deep sea fishing and just get them out, get a line in the water and just hang out. And they came out and they had a phenomenal time. And they texted me this morning that they're up, they're ready to go exercise, they're ready to take on the world. When's the next fishing trip? So, because
I would imagine you get in, it's easier to not deal or to just stay where you're at than to try to venture out, because that allows, he's got a phone call.
That's my work phone.
It's fine. Answer it if you need to.
No, I'm good.
They have trust issues. They also they have to try to figure out how to communicate in a way that is different, because just because you were a civilian going in doesn't mean you're the same human being going out.
Right.
And so you have all of these other things that are on your mind, on your plate, that you've built up, and then you have to try to figure out, well, how am I going to communicate with that? It's easier for me to withdraw and not be part of that than get out. So I love that you did that, and that's part of what you do for Wounded Warriors.
Right.
So what's the main focus? Obviously, a deep sea fishing trip is one.
Yeah.
But what services is Wounded Warriors providing?
So
Wounded Warrior projects.
So I'm on the alumni team. So my main focus is I'm out there basically on the front lines, trying to get warriors into the project, enticing them with some fun activities, some different events and stuff to do. And when I get them out there, I can explain to them the different services we provide, that once they're an alumni, I can refer them over. We have CSRP team, which is Combat Stress and Readiness Program, which will send them on Project Odysseys. So if they're having marital problems, if they're having individual problems with PTSD, we will send them on a 2-week, basically like a skill building course. One was whitewater rafting in Montana, where they're with other vets or they're with other couples, and it's a strict, like, they are together for 2 weeks and they are skill building. They're doing things that they didn't think they could ever do before, and when they come back, they have tools to really to apply and take on the world with. We also have the benefits team, which goes over their VA paperwork, because the VA is the monster that it looks. It's not easy. It's very hard. The VA doesn't care. They're a government entity. They do not care. They put together your paperwork and you're out. So what we have a team dedicated to going over the VA paperwork, making sure that these vets are getting every single dollar amount that they deserve.
Because I have a lot of vets who've been on the show that say it was too much of a cluster to deal with, so they don't even have any of their benefits.
And they purposely do that because once you see that, they know that they either have anxiety or they're gonna be like, no, I'm done. I don't want.
Makes me insane that they're having to deal with that. Yeah. This is the thing too. I think that you were talking about spouses and relationships and whatever it is. You're coming back. You could have been somebody before you left, and you were not that same person when you get back.
Absolutely.
And
not.
so just because your relationship was here doesn't mean it's the same when you're out. and to be able to give them the tools. That's why we've got Peter Rippich was on here. He and I work together, and he's Mr. 22, so he does 22 push-ups every day. He's at 1,000 days to bring attention to the 22 vets that commit suicide.
Right.
There are people out there, because we don't understand it, and I think people think, oh, that's really sweet, Peter does 22 push-ups, but they don't understand that that represents 22 real human beings, and then all the lives, it's exponential what is impacted by those 22 on average. So hey, Hafid, what's up, buddy? So I think that it is so important, the services that you're providing, but what does somebody like me, how can someone like me who has never been in the service, but has a great deal of respect and admiration, how can we get involved? What can we do as a civilian?
So obviously there's donations to the project, right? And those donations, that's how we go on fishing trips. That's how we send guys and gals and families out to the different programs that we have, and we keep our staff on board to help them with their VA. But the other thing is, when I'll have in New Year's we'll have a gala, and I'll invite individuals like yourself out to come out, meet the warriors, just enjoy some drinks and some meals with them. And the biggest thing is just for them to know that civilians, they're not afraid of them. They love them. You know what I mean? The biggest thing is warriors are afraid that civilians don't like them because they're different, or they're this or that, or they're afraid. So anytime there's an event that I put on, anybody that wants to come out, I usually publicize my events. They can come out, civilians can come out and help, just donate their time. And we had a big beach bash in Clearwater. I had a couple civilian friends of mine come out just to help serve up the meals that we had. And the warriors love it because they can see that, you're there for no other reason than just to be around them.
That's the thing. I think I understand that, because I think that they've run into snags, obviously. Plus, there's also that immediate distrust because it's a brand new environment for them. They're used to having you all have their backs all the time, and then we obviously don't understand what you're going through or what they've been through, and so for us to be involved, it's a support system. It shows that we actually care and love them and want to do things for them. It's the number one thing that I get requested is trying to help veterans groups, anybody who's veteran related. So there is a heart for that, but I think people don't know how to approach it.
Right.
They don't know how to get involved. They don't know. So if you hear the word, or you hear the term Wounded Warrior Project, now you know that as somebody who isn't a veteran, you actually can get involved. There are ways for you to do the things that you want to do. And I think because of the VA, I'm not really a big proponent or fan, right?
Either.
So because I've just seen the impact, or that the lack of attention has created. But they also don't know that you know that. That we have to educate ourselves more on what's going on, and we have to be able to provide the services. I mean, on a daily basis, you were willing to give up your life for country. And I think that it's any of our heroes that we do on a daily basis. That's why we're such a big proponent having anybody on here, because if you're not in it, you don't know it.
Right.
So how did it change your life? What did it impact you? You said you've mentioned a few times a bottle of Jack, right? So you go from that, and then how do you make the transition out of that? Who helps you along the way?
Okay, so with that, it would have to be my firstborn daughter. That was my Jesus Christ, right? Like, she was born and I had cocaine residue in my nose, Jack Daniels in my hands, and I was like, what am I doing? Right. Now it's not about woe is me. I did all these things. I lost X, Y, and Z in combat. Now it's the point where I have to man up, right?
Right.
And that's one of those terms that's like, man up. Like, what does that mean? Well, to me, it means just digging down deep, grabbing yourself in the haunches and just taking care of it.
I like that terminology.
So that to me was what it was. But there's a lot of guys that I've known that their family, their kid, nobody can help them. Right. They can't bring themselves out of that. You can't help anybody that doesn't want to be helped. At the end of the day, I can sit here and try to help my brothers and sisters all day long. If they don't want the help, I'm not going to be able to break through.
Right.
So that's what it was for me. It was my daughter and doing better, trying to be a better person and achieving a degree when people are like, there's no way you're a dumbass. You're not going to be able to get a degree.
Who says that? Like, why do people? So what's it like? I just don't. I know it happens because I've had many other people come on where there was this disbelief that they could do anything outside of serving our country. And to me, that's like the ultimate goal: serving our country, our community. You pick it. And yet they were met with people who just didn't believe in what their dreams were.
Yeah. So, as a Marine, a lot of people think that you're just a dumb trigger puller, right? So when you come out of the Marine Corps, you know, most of the time Marines are built a certain way, they look a certain way, they're very gruff, the way they communicate is different. And that's one thing I've had to learn is communication skills, you know, instead of, if you would have brought me on here and I talked to you about 10 years ago, I'm like, what's up, motherfucker? You know what I mean? But so communications.
I wasn't sure. I love you. So I told you it's your show. So I wasn't sure what you were going to say, but that's all right.
But no, so, you know, the whole, it just comes back to the doubt of people is either going to fuel you or it's going to conquer you, you know? And there's doubts all day long about veterans. They think that they're not more than, well, if they didn't go to college right out of school, they just went in the military.
Oh my God, so
you know,
such BS.
And a lot of military members come from broken hardship. You know, they feel like, oh, I can't afford to go to college, so I'll just go in the military, and you know, and it's true. You know, I'm a street rat. You know, I've grown up in gangs, in and out of gangs, and the Marine Corps was the one place where I found this is the ultimate gang. Like, we're the world's hardest gang, you know. And
I like how your face changes when you talk about being a Marine.
Oh,
it's apparent, right? So there's this, that goes back to that. There's a love and trust and integrity and loyalty, which we spoke about earlier, that you can't find most of the time outside of that kind of kindred spirit where you guys are basically life or death with each other on a regular basis. It's very difficult, but when you speak about it, you can see your face light up.
Oh yeah.
Why? Because that made such an impact on you and who you are and what you do and how you treat people. I think it's so important for us to take that into consideration when we are looking at hiring veterans, when we are looking at engaging with veterans, and we need to get rid of our crazy stereotype. What did you say? Crazy and rough? I love that. That was good. Yeah. But that is the thought process, right? So you think, oh my God, he doesn't on paper, well, you do. But on paper, he's quote unquote only served our country. And I think that is the complete opposite way we need to think.
Right.
Oh my God, he served our country. Those skills, can you imagine how good they could be in corporate America, how good they could be at a particular job? It's so important for us to rethink the way that we treat and look at our vets, in my opinion.
I've had this focus group going now that we're so 2001 marks September 11th, right? We just went through it, and September 11th, 2001 was really the kickoff of the new veteran era. Before that, there were some skirmishes here and there, but it really was Vietnam. So post 9/11 is my generation, our generation, where it was been nothing but war since 2001. Now we have individuals coming out of the military and they've learned the skill traits. So the military teaches you a lot of things, but the one thing is to be tenacious, to always go after it and do it to the best of your ability. And you have to be honest. Everything it comes down to integrity, like you said. So we have these individuals that are now having the GI Bill, they're going to school, they're getting degrees, and now they're starting to take over, and we're going to see a dynamic shift that in our businesses taking over for the policymakers is going to be veterans.
Right.
You know, that's going to be the future, and instead of being afraid of them, we need to embrace them with open arms.
We absolutely do, and I can't figure, so on the loan side, we deal with, we love VA loans, right? So that's another potential for, it's a benefit. I know it's crazy, but that's actually a benefit they get because they serve. And I would love to educate the real estate community. Do you know how many of our VA loan pre-approvals get turned down by the listing or selling agent because they don't want to deal with veterans? They don't want to deal with the VA. They think it's a difficult thing.
That's the best loan you can get.
Constantly in battle with them. We all are trying to educate them on the fact that is such, it's not a difficult loan. It's a benefit they get. I mean, thank God they get something, right? So it's a benefit that they get, and we make it easy because we're committed to it. And the VA, believe it or not, as long as we do everything we're supposed to do, it's not a difficult loan to get. And so I think it's so unfortunate. I'm constantly, our whole team, Freedom's trying to educate these people on how that is such a positive loan. They will pick any other loan over a VA loan. There are some things on the MLS, which is our real estate thing, I think it should be outlawed. It says no VA loans accepted.
That's weird.
It's so hurtful and disrespectful, and I want to encourage our industry to not be like that, because it is not, whatever you think it is, it's not that difficult. We make it easy. They really do make it easy. We just have to do our job up front, and if we do that correctly, it should be a much easier loan to deal with. But we got to get out of the sand, our heads out of the sand on that. Stop putting no VA loans. I mean, that's just such a slap in the face to the vets that are applying for a loan that can qualify, that we've obviously qualified, and that they can get the loan. To say none, it's so discriminatory, and I want to change the way our industry, especially the real estate industry, looks at it. All right, so we have, we've covered a lot, right? Yeah. All right, so if you want to find out more about Ricky, more about the Wounded Warrior Project, how you can reach him, how you can get involved, you want to get involved, trust me, you want to get involved. They need help, and that's a hard thing for him to say, but they need as much real, honest help that you can possibly give, because we have a lot of veterans out there, and we need to provide them the services that they deserve, and certainly the respect and the love that they deserve. And I'll share all of that when the show's over, and Ricky will too. All right, so we love to talk about mentors. You mentioned it a couple times. If you can give a shout out, we're big on the show about mentorship, getting involved, talking about giving gratitude, showing gratitude to the people who have helped you along the way. And so if you can give a shout out to one or two, or as many as you'd like, people who have helped you along the way, we would appreciate that.
So my biggest mentor, and this is my number one, my guardian angel, would probably Dr. Bill Sutton. He was the one that started the MBA, the VINIC program, the Sport and Entertainment Management program at USF. And when I applied for it, I had just finished my bachelor's degree, and I applied for it, and I didn't think it's a cohort. It's a 25-person cohort, and they only take, it's a small percentage, and they only take them once every 2 years. So I didn't think I was going to get it. It was an incredible program, and Dr. Sutton hit me up personally and said he wanted to meet with me at his office. So I met with him, and he saw my background as a Marine, and he was like, I've never had anybody in one of my cohorts like you. I want you in the cohort. Love that. So I took my GMAT, I did all the things that needed to be done, and the whole time he just had the utmost, he was always patting me on the back, just, you can do it, you can get through this, you can, like, no matter what. When I was done, he still to this day is checking on me, making sure that I'm achieving what I need to achieve and reaching further than I think I can go. So Dr. Bill Sutton, he's a huge name in the sport and entertainment industry, huge. And he took a personal interest in just a dumb vet. So that is, to me, is the one person I'll go to my grave with the utmost gratitude for.
I love it. That's awesome. See, guys, just take an interest. Reach out. Honestly, he took an interest. He didn't have to.
No.
That's the thing that people need to understand about mentorship. You know, reach out if you see something in someone, or if you see somebody struggling, or you think you can help them. I don't know why we don't extend our hand up for that more often. And so big kudos to Dr. Bill Sutton, because that's really awesome. All right, thanks for being on the show. You're a joy, man. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you for all you do with Wounded Warrior Project. We love you guys. You're awesome, amazing. Reach out to Ricky. I tagged him. He didn't have Facebook, so we tagged him on. Now he should. We tagged him on Instagram. All you IG people, all you people under 70 like me, you should definitely check out IG. But it's always a joy to be with him. Why? Because Ricky's real, and a fantastic friend and a great human being, and that's what we want to continue to cultivate in people, right? So look at this. This is a veteran. This is what a veteran looks like. They all look different, but you wanna reach out. You wanna be supportive of our vets. So thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back. Thank you so much for being on the show, driving all the way here.
Of course.
We love you guys. We'll see you back soon. Mwah. Peace.